Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today I am your host Matt, and I'm joined by my friends Alex and Jem. Before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem for some exclusive content, or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com.
Yeah, the best art is stuff that forces you to feel something or react in a particular way. It's like with comedy, its goal is to force you to laugh. That's what the best comedy is. So you don't have a choice because it's so well done. I think this is a good place to move into the emotional movement and growth that is stimulated by playing games, because the world will force you to feel certain things. The world will impact you in any number of ways that you can't control. Whereas with games, you're in control of the environment, but it can still make you feel things. And if you're able to truly feel certain things that you weren't expecting, then that is massively positive for your mental and emotional health. Because the worst thing for you is to bottle things up and never process them. And a way, so from the sounds of it, Journey, the emotional part was the other people. That was the again, coming to the best games, this was influenced a lot by playing Baldur's Gate 3 recently, is the truly capturing relationships, interesting relationships between characters that feel real. And for people who struggle with interacting with other people, games give an excellent opportunity to develop those interpersonal skills, in that particularly games where you get choices to, say, for Baldur's Gate 3 or Vampire or Mass Effect, you get to choose the path that your character takes in the way that it interacts with other people. And I'd be interested to know what you two do and whether it's changed in the past, is when you play these branching narrative games, do you go and play the good path and only play that? Do you play it once on the good, play it another one on the bad, etc.? For example, we'll start with Baldur's Gate 3, and how did you both approach your play style on the first playthrough?
I almost always start every game like where you can choose as a sort of neutral good position, because I think that's kind of where I sit naturally. So I tend to make the choices that I would make if I was in that, or I would hope I would make if I was in those situations. And I have tried on a number of occasions to sort of play a more extreme version, either extreme good or extreme evil, but I find that really challenging. Daniel ran his first run through of Baldur's Gate as a paladin, and was having to make all sorts of interesting choices for good. But one example was that he killed Lae'zel because he couldn't let her down without becoming an oath breaker. So he didn't. So he just sacrificed Lae'zel for the good of his character. So, and now he's playing an evil character, and he has really struggled with it. Actually, he's really struggled with some of the choices that he's had to make through that. So, I think that sometimes it's quite difficult. I am now playing the Dark Urge, which isn't necessarily evil. Well, but you can play it how you want. So I think I chose that rather than, well, partly because it's a written character, and origin character, and I wanted to see how that played out, but partly because I felt like it would allow me to maybe dabble in being a little bit more evil without feeling that I had to throw myself 100% into it, because I do like emotionally, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. I do emotionally engage with my games if they're good games, and that's really what I want from my gaming experience, is that emotional immersion. So I feel that it's good to be okay with the decisions that you're making, because otherwise it can have sometimes it just makes you feel like I did actually have a romantic interlude with the emperor, and
Okay.
I still feel icky about it. I still feel like, oh, I'm not sure I want, but I did that because I felt like my character would have done that, and I mean I wouldn't, but I felt like my character, by the time we got to that point, my character had become quite had stepped forward, had developed herself in her own right and distinct from me, and I'm protesting too much, aren't I? But I did feel that was a choice that she would make, and that's why I did that. But I still feel uncomfortable about that choice, and so I think it is quite interesting. Like, the more connected you are, the more I think it affects your ability to play these different roles sometimes, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't. And I think the point you made earlier about games providing us with a space where we can explore some of these different roles and different decisions and different lives is one of the beauties of gaming, that it gives us that opportunity to explore that within a safe and unharmful environment. So I think that's powerful.
I can't. It's hard to find. Another thing is that it's able to make you feel a real world feeling in a fantasy setting. So I would struggle to find a scenario in the real world where I'd be having sex with a squid face thing. It would be very that would be.
Let's
quite,
just not think about
quite
it
rare.
too much.
Yeah, and I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the best choose your own adventure game ever made, because too easily it becomes, right, there's a good choice, there's a bad choice, and there's a neutral choice with each like dialogue thing in lots of things. But with this, it wasn't clear. A lot of it was very, very grey. And then that's the place where you can do it's a proper like furnace for personal like emotional growth, because it puts you in a position So there are, for example, Astarian's quest line, when one of the most emotional moment in the game was when they've just got into the basement of Cazador's palace, and you're walking through and you find the cages with all the thralls in. And Astarion speaks to Sebastian, who was one of his first catches, and Sebastian had been in that cage for 170 years. And just that interaction between the two of them, that wasn't, I get so pissed off with writing that it's just, this is where we are now, this is where we've got to go, and this is what we've got to do when we get there. Whereas this was this beautiful, tender interaction between two broken people. And you got to go, right, everyone he knows is dead. They were all been driven mad being underground. You release 7,000 thralls into the world. It's going to be chaos. Or do you sacrifice them? But the core of it, because it on paper it goes, oh yeah, sacrifice them, get superpower on a Astarian vampire. Great. But the core of it was that little conversation going, oh shit, I'm going to feel terrible no matter what I do. And that's the kind of writing that we need. Because I chose to ascend Astarion, but then he wouldn't stop going, oh, I feel fabulous. So then properly having consequences that matter. That's a thing, because that's how life is. There are consequences that matter, and having something that mimics like life, the dynamics of life properly, has the best impact, I think.
For Baldur's Gate, I picked a rogue for my character because I liked being a little bit sneaky, and I went for an assassin rogue because you know how much I love Assassin's Creed, and I was like, I can connect to this character. I know what they're about. So I'd say I definitely found that I did struggle to do some of the rogue options in conversations, although I wanted to do them as much as possible whenever the options came up. But I definitely feel like I'm a neutral good as well. I just can't like be evil in any way. So I'm like, I got a lot of XP because I went for an urchin background. So I got lots of XP for helping out like orphan children and things like that. Stuff like that really, which was interesting. I really liked that, how they built that into each of the characters would get inspiration points, sorry, not XP, inspiration points for doing something that spoke to them and their character and their background, which was really cool. But yeah, and the beauty of it, a game, of course, and it being a safe space to try being a different character, is you can always reload. But then sometimes, as you say, Matt, you get those situations where whatever you say, you're going to feel pretty rubbish. So I definitely think it was a really wonderful example of a kind of really layered and nuanced type of RPG. Whereas in some, like you say, you've got a really bland, good, neutral, bad option. This one was really fleshed out, I thought. So I very much enjoyed it.
I hope we can have a proper conversation about just Baldur's Gate 3 at some point, because I've got so much to say now that I've finished it. The game so I used to be like, I could only play the good role because I would feel genuinely bad about myself in real life if I did anything remotely evil. But the game that snapped me out of that was Vampire, because it has a system so it's basically a detective game, and you have to solve the mysteries around the inhabitants of districts. And then once you've solved enough of the mystery, you can choose to spare you can choose to embrace them, where you kill them and you you get experience points from blood, and the more like the good the person is, the better quality their blood is. So if you kill good people, then you'll power up faster. You can kill bad people and you'll power up. But the more blood you drink, the more people you kill, the more powerful you become. And those powers actually really matter. You actually get a massive advantage by doing that. But it means you have to end up killing who do you kill? Is it wrong? Is it ethical to kill everyone? Is it ethical to kill no one? Is it ethical to kill a certain number of people? And the story needs to be good enough that you go, right, I'm going to do something bad, and then I'm going to deal with that outcome no matter what happened. And I think that's really important to practice, because it is a skill, breaking yourself out of patterns of behavior. That's one of the hardest things to do, because it's baked into your brain chemistry. Is fucking all your neural pathways have been knitted for decades, and when I play my next playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, there's so much richness in terms of the way that you can move through the world that it's again, it feels like a safe place to experiment with who you want to be. And so Baldur's Gate has done a huge amount with that. And yeah, this is a little bit of a tangent from this, which is confidence in yourself and exerting yourself on the world. Because a game that has really turned a corner for me in terms of me going, right, I want to do this. I either want to do this thing the way that I want to do it, or I'm not going to do it. And that is something that I've had to train myself out. I was going, it doesn't matter if you want to do it or not. You have to do it the way, and you just have to get it done. It doesn't matter what you think or feel. But it's been playing Elden Ring again, because I played it about 2 years ago when it first came out, and it was one of the first stupidly difficult games I'd ever played. But I put my time into it. I farmed runes there's at the root of the Erd tree, the great big beautiful golden tree, there's this forgotten nameless city that's built into the roots, and there's this great big long log that goes from the bottom of that up to the throne of the Prince of Death. So it was incredibly cool. And along this branch, there are these winged, armless guardians that blow fire at you. And I must have spent a stupid number of hours just going down that branch, killing them all, reloading, going back up to the top, killing my way down again, and powered myself all the way up as much as I could, and played it over and over again so many times and loved it. But I had no idea what was going on all the way through, because the storytelling on it is pretty much entirely environmental, whereas 99% of games you're taken through the story, whereas this is just, it looks cool and it's fun to play, and that was enough. Whereas when I played it again a few months ago, it started off with I was looking at these awesome lore videos, so I go, oh my god, I understand the world now. And then I went to go and see the symphony live in the Albert Hall. And then I waited a little bit longer, and then I bought it again because the DLC was coming out. And this time I bought it on laptop, on PC. And it's just starting from zero. I just wasn't enjoying it. I started just as the vanilla game. There's no change in difficulty. It's just you go. And I wasn't enjoying it. And I felt like I wouldn't enjoy playing it if I was to force myself through it, I wouldn't enjoy playing it. But now that I'm on my PC, I was able to use mods. And I modded it so that I started off at 99, level 99 on all of my like stats. So I immediately went in, and because I played it so many times, I remembered where everything was. I remembered all of the movements of everything. And so I just wanted to go through and just carve my way through things and going, oh, I know what that means now. I know what that means now. And because of mods, I was able to do it. And that is something that has like really changed something in the way I play games, in that I am happy playing on easy now. And I think that's something that I don't know how either of you have like dealt with that in the past. Is there's so much like internalized judgment about playing on easy mode or doing things that aren't as hard as they're supposed to be. And I wonder if how the way that you interact with games, how it started in the terms of the pressures that you put on yourselves, and how those if you have like lessened the impact of that so you can play the way that you want to.
That's such a good question. I think for me, I still struggle with it. I can think of at least 2 games where I haven't finished them because I haven't yet said to myself it's okay to switch it down a level in difficulty and just carry on, because I'm so proud of being like, even on normal difficulty, I'm like, I've got to do it on normal difficulty, it'll be fine. And then I have not gone back to those games because I'm like, oh no, it was too difficult. But I really should, to be honest, because it's ironic, as someone who advocates for accessibility and adapting things to suit you, that I should be able to be like, yes, it's okay to play the game at this level. I think it's interesting when I think back to childhood, because a lot of games that I played didn't really have difficulty levels. It was just one level. Thinking particularly of Tomb Raider, which was in fact actually really hard, but to us it didn't feel like that because you just kept going until you got it. So then that was normal for everybody because it was all the same for everybody. But now there's loads of difficulty levels, and I do feel, especially when it says quote normal, you feel like that's where everyone should be, and that if you can't do that, then somehow you're not good enough. And we need to get rid of that thought. But it does still eat away at the back of my head, I must say. So I need to work on that, definitely.
I think we should just ditch the word normal from our language completely, because I think it's so divisive and problematic, really. I agree. I think I'm always complaining about how time poor I am. So I'm very much wanting to get as much bang for my buck for what little time I have got to game. I want to enjoy it, but I still do struggle with this idea of like, am I playing it properly if I reduce the difficulty? But I have started to do that. Although saying that, I'm doing Baldur's Gate in Tactician at the moment because I wanted a little bit of extra challenge, and it is meaning that I'm going through it much slower. And there has definitely been a bit of me that's sort of saying, is this sensible? But then I'm not in a race. I'm not trying to get to I'm enjoying the process. And I think that's the other thing. There's this feeling that, you should be able to complete all the games and you should be able to do them in a certain amount of time. And I think that those are just pressures that we're putting on ourselves. And I think talking about the sort of impact of gaming and how we see our mental health within that is one of those things that we have to recognize, that we're not in a race 90% of the time, 99% of the time in our lives, and you do need to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the journey and enjoy I don't even know if journey is the right word, but certainly enjoy the path that you are walking. and I think that gaming can teach you a little bit of that. I think it is challenging though, and I think that one of the things that I've become increasingly aware of is this idea of leveling the playing field, that we don't recognize that as something that is as important as actually I think it is. And I know that this is something that you will probably know a lot about, Alex, but it's, for me, I think when I have conversations with people, there's always this sort of attitude of like you're getting something extra, when actually you're just getting access to something that everyone else has. And so I wonder how much of that plays into it. Like, if you complete the game but you did it on easy, you cheated, but actually that's not true, because if actually easy is the equivalent of somebody else's normal for you, who's to know, who's to say, who's to comment? What's the point of gaming? And I've had this conversation with my daughter about looking up clues for games when she's got really stuck. And I said to her, well, what's the point in playing? And she said, well, to have fun. And I'm like, well, there you go. It's not to get stuck and cross and not be able to do it. Yes, there is an argument for pitting yourself against the game and challenge and perseverance and all those kind of things that are also skills that we can learn from gaming. But it's also about having fun, and I think there's a good lesson to be learned there for us, about that we can find ways to make our experience through life a little bit more fun. And if that's dropping it down a couple of levels of difficulty, then go for it, or if it's boosting yourself to level 99, do it. And I think we've talked about it before in the pod, and I think it is a really important issue, and I don't like the sort of elitist attitude, but I don't think we fit with those people anyway, so who cares what they
It's
think.
funny, I follow an actor on Instagram, Rao Cooley. He is from Britain but based in America currently. He's quite nerdy, and he just started playing the latest Astrobot game, and he said that this reminds him that games are just for fun, and he's never played a game that's so fun that he can remember, and he thinks that gaming has lost its funness in recent years, and kind of lost sight of what gaming is for. So I think that just tied really nicely into what you said, Jem. Yeah.
Playing the series of first-person shooters that I've done over the last few months, I think I played like 7. I was a little bit worried that I had lost my taste for challenges, and that all I wanted to do was play things that I could just rush through and not be particularly challenged by. But then I played Doom Eternal, and I hadn't lost my drive and capacity for massively challenging things. I just become more discerning about which challenges I choose. Because a lot of games, this is very common in the first-person shooter genre, they're not built well enough to be worth the difficulty of going through. If it's a challenge, it needs to be because it's a rich gaming experience. And Doom Eternal is it's a fast-paced, ridiculously satisfying puzzle, and to get, like, for me, there's that level of difficulty which is that just pushes up. It's manageable, but you need to get better at the game in order to do it. And then it just hit that groove flawlessly for pretty much the entire length of the game. And then looking back on all the other games, the first-person shooter game I played them on easy. And most of them, it's just because you're just running down a corridor shooting things. And most games, in terms of difficulty, either the enemies do more damage and you do less damage, and then that's what they're saying. Oh, you need to be, if you're a real gamer, you could do that when it's just two variables that have been changed. Whereas with Doom Eternal, you do damage, the enemies do damage, the enemies are faster, I think there are more of them, but I was driven to power my way through, and so that's the first time I've really cared about being good at a game for a long time, so I'm glad I haven't lost that. And then I went almost directly from that into, because I was worried that I'd lost the taste for long form games because I'd been only playing Hitman and these short games, and then went into Baldur's Gate 3, and I think I've played about 80 hours of it over the last few weeks. And I'd gone back to, it was all about me going, oh yeah, I played the way I want to with all those shooting games. And in Baldur's Gate 3, I realised that I want a magic dice that always wins, that always wins. And so I basically just reload until I won each dice roll. Because I was, with games like Fallout, for example, you have, the writing is spectacular. So you get lots of different dialogue options. And so if your charisma is high, then you can choose a certain one, your deception's high, etc. But once your deception's at a certain level, you automatically pass there isn't a dice roll or an odds of you getting it. You just get it once you've done that. And so I basically wanted that for Baldur's Gate 3, so that I could pursue the path that I wanted to and see what would happen in an interesting way. And it's got a really good customization of gameplay elements in the menu. So I was able to just go through that, going, yeah, that. And it just makes gaming fun again. It makes you can just sit and do it. You can just be yourself and do something the way that you want to do it. And yeah, it's as we can see from us talking about it like this, the incredible impact it has on our lives, not just when we were kids. It's constant, ongoing, evolving ourselves. And I like that if I had more time to think, we could have come up with like a level up screen with like, oh, this means you've got a morality and ethics like upgrade, and you can, and spatial awareness and all that kind of thing. Oh, I think I've had a list of about like 30 different skills, that like tangible skills, and I think we've only gone through like 7 of them. So we'll have to do this again at some point. Thank you both. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed that, and
Thank you, Matt. It was great.
I didn't expect.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, and until next time, we can find us every Thursday. I've been practicing a little bit more streaming. If you want to watch some fun games, I just played the first Warhammer Space Marine, and that was really jolly. And I've just started. I'm not streaming the second one, but I've just started the second one, and it's gone up a massive gear from then. And just a lot of brutal chainsaws and bolt guns and for the Emperor. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. So until next time, we'll see you guys then. Bye.